Hello, everyone. My name is Jesper Birch Jensen, and I work as an equity research analyst here at ABG, where I cover gaming and technology stocks. With us today, we have Niklas Koresaar, who is the CFO of Flexion Mobile. So without further ado, please go ahead, Niklas.
Thanks. Okay, so this is the first time we present here at ABG, so we're going to hold a pretty generic presentation about Flexion. I'm the CFO. I joined Flexion in 2014, and my background is banking and fund management in London. So Flexion is a mobile game platform play. So we're a service industry to mobile gaming, which is a little bit different from the normal gaming companies on the market, which develops games. We founded 10 years ago, and we always distributed games. We were world leading on converting games on the Nokia Ericsson time, and had $7 million in revenue on a tiny market. We're London-based, Swedish management, 45 staff, listed on Nasdaq First North last year in Stockholm. We have a run rate annualized about £8 million per year. So, mobile gaming space. I don't know how much you know about it, but it's a massive market who's growing a lot with a lot of opportunities. We don't cover App Store or Apple, so we focus on the Android market. That is our addressable market. That's the market we technically can do. On that market, we don't cover Google Play, we don't cover China. So we focus on the other market, the alternative Android market, which is a $2 billion market growing to $5 billion. That's our go-to-market strategy. That's the market we're going to take. So what is the alternative Android market? That's basically all the new stores that drives the fragmentation on the market. And there's a lot of exciting things happening on that market. The existing channels, like Amazon and Samsung, are investing heavily into their stores because they need to grow their own ecosystems within software. And to do that, it's very good to have a very good mobile strategy because that attracts users to your ecosystem and it's also retain users. So it's crucial for them to have a mobile game strategy. You have new entries, typically here the big Chinese device manufacturers, numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the world, who have very good strategies in China and now coming out of that matured market. You have new regions popping up. Southeast Asia was a tiny market a couple of years ago. Now that's a $2 billion market for mobile games worldwide, not just for our store, but the rest. You have the Indian market, which, if you compare it to China, China is about $20 billion market in mobile games. India is $100 million because they're suffering on mobile coverage and on monetization. But that is now coming up. Super exciting. New monetization models. Because it's a new market, not controlled by two big stores, Google and Apple, you can test new ways to make money, for example, subscription. So there's new ways to monetize your users. You also have new ways to reach out to users. So for example, the classical store concept is challenged by people like Epic, who has Fortnite, who goes directly to the end consumer. And you start to see user acquisition on the market. There is a lot of new factors playing around here. All of them create more fragmentation. And Flexion loves fragmentation. So why are we on the market? All game developers basically write for two stores, Google and Apple. They all do the same. That means that those two stores have 4 million apps on each in the stores. So they're massively overcrowded. And the only way for developers to be seen is to buy users. So they have to reinvest all the money they make to be seen. At the same time, it's very difficult for them to reach out to new markets because the games have become very, very complex. And it's quite heavy for them to go out. And the transparency in these new opportunities is very poor. So most developers, maybe they try 1 or 2 new stores, but most of them stick to the 2 main ones. So they're all there. So there is a market problem here. And that market problem we solve by combining the alternative market into a distribution platform. So what we tell a developer is, you're good at Google, you're good at Apple, you do that, and we take care about the rest of the distribution. And we do that through a full service offer. So effectively, what we do is that the game developer writes a small file, which is the one you buy if you go into Google Apps and you download to your phone. We can convert that file automatically, and then we do all the service things that is needed to create the full distribution. So it's testing, updates, billing. You need to have channel management with the channels, distribution, compliance, you name it. And this is key because in the press at the moment, there's a lot of talk about this coming up new ways to reach users. But it's very much on the technical enabling side. But it's no one who takes care about the rest. That's where the developer find it really cumbersome. So we're the only people who can do this. So effectively, we get their existing file and we send them back money and data. So we do everything for them. Why are we unique? Why are we the only people who can do it? It's very much the history here. So we have for 10 years built on a machine where we can check in the file they've written for Android, for Google. And the machine then reads the binary code in the machine, and the machine then identifies what codes needs to be turned off or replaced with new code, so we take control over the game file. And by doing that, we can add the functionality needed to recreate files for the rest, for the other stores. We're the only people who can do this. And this is patented in the US, patent pending in Europe. And this is important because these new games, they are updated. They're sending out a new version every second to third week, but they always find some other things, so they do it. Some do it every second, third day. So you have to have an automated process, and we're the only people who have that. What's also very interesting here is the enhancement side. So we enable distribution, but we also enhance distribution. So if you remember on the alternative Android slide, there is a lot of new features coming in and new ways to monetize. So we can build support for that and add that into the files. And by doing that, we can help new ways to monetize better. The model is very simple. We get a file, we convert it, put it out in a store. The store traditionally takes 30%, so they pay Flexion $70. And then we have a revenue share with the developer. It varies a lot based on what we do, but on average, say 20% to us and 80% to them. So it's the gross revenue is 100, the revenue is 100, cost of sale is 56 plus 30, and the gross profit is 14. So 14% margin. There is, of course, there's a lot of pressure on the stores reducing the 30% because it's too much. So we see 15% from some stores now. So our margin and developers' margin is increasing. So the go-to-market strategy, how big is that opportunity for us? And we're not here talking about going into Google or China or anything like that. But that strategy is alone. We are saying we want 100 games. And we're talking 100 games on the top 500 list, because that's where we focus, really the top games of the world. And a third of those is what we call top-tier games. And top-tier game is a game which should make $140,000 per month to Flexion in revenue. You've seen before other numbers, but then there were net of store fees. Now we report gross. And with the distribution power we have at the moment in the platform, we can generate about 10% of Google Play. So if the 200th game in Google Play makes $1.4 million, we make $140,000 to Flexion. And if you look on mid-tier games, it's down to the 500th game, 550th game is $400,000 in Google Play. 10% of that is $40,000 per month. Of course, if you secure a game which makes 2 million in Google Play and we generate 10%, we get 200. So for us, it's very important to try to move up the scale, the quality of the game. Strategically, it's also very important for us to increase that percentage. So if we can enhance the distribution power, get new monetization models into our ecosystem, we can maybe make 15 or 20%. And if we make 20%, we of course double the revenue in Flexion. So it's a very good way for us to grow revenue in the company. So how far have we come so far? So if you remember the service pipe, the enabling side, the machine, was ready for these freemium games, which are the most advanced games in the world. That's where each game is its own store. So the machine was ready in 2014, and then we built on the service pipe up until last year. So we had big traffic games on the platform before. So we had Subway Surfer and the Talking Tom games, so the biggest traffic games in the world. But we couldn't take on the revenue games because we didn't have the full service offer. That was done last year, so we went then for global rollout. So we had 2 top and 2 mid-tier games. And since then, we secured another 11 games to the portfolio. And just to try to quantify how big this is, these games worldwide, this is what Little Flexion has done in a year, have an annual revenue in all their stores over $1 billion in revenue. So Flexion today has one of the biggest portfolios in the world on our market. And this is after 1 year of rollout. So when we come to stores, they really listen to us. I also want to mention, we also announced a new channel last week, Xiaomi, which is the 3rd biggest device manufacturer on the Android side. It's a Chinese player. So that's a new exciting way to build on the 10%. But how are we growing this from 15 up to 100? Because this took a year. And it's very much it's a network, it's a platform network play. Because what we are doing is we are the first mover. There's no one else who can do what we're doing. So we go into a market, we take that market, and by doing that, we kind of become the norm. And at the same time, the more revenue we have on the platform, the easier it is to attract new developers because you have better KPIs to sell to everyone. And of course, you get credibility on developer side, developers talking to other developers. Channels are asking us, oh, can you help us? You got that great game. Can you help us with some other games? And as an example, we secured a top 10 game in the world in some of our stores, not all our stores. But that was a Chinese game. So that's one of the top Chinese games in the Western world. So of course, your credibility on the Chinese market, who is a big producer of games to the Western world today, is of course massive. So just to wrap up, it's a mobile game platform play. It's quite a different investment approach to mobile gaming compared to developers. Because we work with a large portfolio of games where we're not that dependent on individual games because we can relatively easily replace them. We're definitely first mover, unique tech, absolutely unique knowledge, and that's probably the most key important factor here. We are in a global rollout mode, so it's all about sales, sales, sales. We have pretty decent traction at the moment, and we can create network effects which are very good for the future growth prospects. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Niklas. As you mentioned, you've signed several top-tier games in the world recently, and I was wondering how long does it take for you, when you sign the game, how long does it take until it's out on the market and contributing to your revenues or Flexion's revenues?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think this is something we're trying to teach the market this, and it takes a little bit of time. So for us, it takes 1 to 3 months to get the game from signing, which is basically when we announce them to the market, to release them out on the market. And then what we are doing, because user acquisition is not there and it's not the way our market works, we have to build a organic user base. So it takes 6 to 9 months for the game to reach its revenue potential. And that means that the investors have to have a little bit of patience on when you look at, because we announced a lot of big deals, and maybe the market had a little bit of expectations that that's going to grow the next morning to fantastic revenue levels. What it does is cement a very strong position going forward, but it takes a little bit of time.
And also, I was wondering if you could expand on your view of the risk of, for example, Amazon Store becoming such a large part of the market that developers choose to enable their game for that market by themselves and not enlist you to do it?
Yeah, it's a relevant question. So the world in the past with 2 dominant stores with a Western approach to it, it's credit card based, and yeah, and what is happening on the market now is that everyone want to try different ways, and I think the last thing they want is another dominant store. And also Amazon is not suitable for example, new growth market. We need local payment solutions, and India I read somewhere, they have 80 languages you need to translate to, and Amazon are coming there with maybe 1. And they also come with a Western Visa, MasterCard. It doesn't work. So there will be a lot of fragmentation. If you look on the Chinese market, which haven't had Google, that is a fragmented market. So it's a much better competition on the Chinese market than it actually is in our market, the rest of the world, so to say. But it's getting there.
And I was also wondering if you could touch on the services you provide after you've converted the game to a specific market. Like, what exactly do you help the developers with to maintain the game, and how much work is that? Like, could they do them by themselves, or are they basically locked in to Flexion? Well,
So what we do is that when we secure the distribution rights for a game, we take over everything. So the developer doesn't really learn how to distribute themselves. So we sit on the knowledge. I think that's the key thing, and all the contacts. And especially the bigger the game, the more we work on marketing campaigns and launch campaigns, initial launch campaigns, and then marketing campaigns for the games. And we are holding those relationships. So it's, yeah, they can try, but they're still back to zero because they don't know how to do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Niklas, for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.